Books with Brandywine. Today is my Asian Readathon wrap-up, and I wanted to talk about the 2 books that I read for the Asian Readathon. The first book that I read is, wrong side, Kitchen Princess, and this is the Omnibus, so this contains the first and second volume of this manga. And I read this for 2 of the prompts. One was a prompt to read a book that was written in the author's original language and has been translated, in this case into English, and also to read a graphic novel or manga, which this is a manga. I mentioned in my TBR video that this is one of my all-time favorite mangas. I read this manga almost 10 years ago, I feel like it was originally, and I just fell in love with it for many reasons. One, it's all about food. She is the kitchen princess, and I love food. Like, I love reading about it, I love eating it, I love seeing it, I love everything to do with food. So that was like my first reason why I super love this manga. And then also there's just like some good life lessons in this manga, especially like having to do with health. As I mentioned in the TBR, like there's this one point where one of the guys comes in and he always eats vitamins, like pills, and so she creates a jelly that has the vitamins that he would need in his daily requirements and is also like gorgeous and colorful and more fun to eat than the pills that he's been eating. And so I was really excited to get to go back and read this omnibus. I do want to finish the whole series, but so far I've just read this one again, and I loved it. It really held up. I loved it just as much the second time reading it as I did the first time I read it. This one, I did forget that there is a character in here who does not believe that the main character should be in their school. And actually, none of the kids that are in their class believe that she should be in the school because they feel like she doesn't have a talent, and they're the special talent class where you have to have a talent. But there's this one girl in particular who is raised with these 2 boys, and these 2 boys are the sons of the director of the school, and both of them immediately like welcome her into the school and become friends with her, and that makes the other girl really jealous because she grew up with these 2 boys and she really is crushing on the dark-haired one, and she thinks that this girl is trying to steal him away from her, when first of all they're not together, and second of all she's not trying to steal him, she just wants to make friends. She's new to the school, and they're the first people that are nice to her, so of course she's going to gravitate towards them as being friends. And so there is a huge bullying aspect that I forgot was in this, and that definitely made me sad and made me cry, because for the whole first semester that she's there, they're picking on her. And that's a long time to be picked on. And then even going into the second semester, they're picking on her because they can't believe she's still there. And she kind of has to earn her way. And then I forgot that that same character that was jealous of her also ends up developing an eating disorder because she's a model and she's trying so hard to lose weight so that she can be the perfect supermodel like her mom. And so that plotline was in there too. That's not really a trigger warning for me, but it might be for some of you out there. So if that is a trigger warning for you, then just know that that is in this book or in this manga. And it does end up getting resolved. But there are, oh my gosh, there's so many good foods in this. Besides the whole plot with like everybody hating her, she really is making great foods. In fact, the first day that she's at the school, she makes flan with some of the students that are in there. And I've never particularly cared for flan. I've had it a few times. It just doesn't seem that great to me. But her describing it and her teaching them how to make it makes me want to make it and try it and eat it. And let me see if I can even find that chapter, because it's just so beautiful. And like, I love it because she's describing like how to make it. And so she's got like these whole pages where she's like instructing them how to make it. She's saying like the proportions that you need of sugars, egg, and what's the third ingredient? Sugar, egg, and milk. And so she said you have to have 20% egg, 65% milk, and 15% sugar. Whatever that means. Like, I don't even know what that means. But, and then she said you have to use a teacup because the metal conducts heat and makes it more difficult for the flan to cook. So you have to use plastic, or I thought she meant like a porcelain teacup, but then later in the recipe it said plastic teacup. So yeah. But then like my biggest favorite thing is pretty much shown on this page. And it's right here when she says, please come out good because I want to see the smile of the person who eats it. And that is a constant theme throughout. Like every time she makes any kind of food or treat or anything for anybody, she's always focusing on, she wants to see the smile of the person that eats it. And she wants it to be something that they'll find delicious and something that will be good for them or bring a good memory or just like all these different things. And I absolutely love that because that is one of the reasons that I love to cook, is because I love it when the people that are important to me, my family or my friends, when I see them enjoying what I've cooked, like it's an indescribable feeling. And so I love that was such a major theme of this book. And then there's just like other parts where she like totally takes over this cafe that's on campus, and like she's trying to figure out how to make this one pie, and she's like, it's impossible how this lady made this pie, like how did she make this pie? And her teacher well, he's not a teacher, he's like the guy that's in charge of the cafe. He comes in and he's like eating these peaches and he's like, these peaches are so good, and he's being like super exaggerated over it because he's figured out how the lady was able to make this delicious pie in just 30 minutes. But he doesn't want to just straight out tell her, he wants her to figure it out, because he's supposed to be teaching her or something. And so like she figures it out watching him exaggeratedly eat these peaches and be like, it's so good, it tastes like pie, hint hint. And it's just like, it cracks me up. And then of course there's those recipes in the back of each volume that I was talking about that was also one of the major reasons why I bought this. And so she has like the Christmas cookies recipe, which she ends up making like those Christmas cookie ornaments. And then the rainbow jelly that I was talking about for the boy that needed the vitamins. Now, I don't know how she'd make it rainbow because I feel like most of the juices that I see are like the same basic like reddish, yellowish colors. There's like no, well, I guess there's green juices, but yeah. So I really, really enjoyed this book. I can't wait to finish the rest of the series again. And I definitely recommend it, especially to anyone who loves like cooking and learning about cooking. Like these are just really fun books for that. The next book that I read for the Asian Readathon was The Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother, and by Amy Chua. And this one I read for 2 prompts. This was for the prompt to be written by an Asian author, which technically they both were, but I just wanted to do 2 prompts each. And then the second prompt was to read a book about intersectional character, and I mean, they're not really characters, but her 2 daughters are Asian Jewish Americans, and so they're dealing with living in the American culture while being raised, well, she's trying to raise them the Chinese way, and then like them having to reconcile both of those parts, as well as also embracing their Jewish heritage. And so this book, like, I think it's interesting because, like, on the back of the book, you always see this, like, thing, she's, like, listing all the things that the girls weren't supposed to do. And this is the first page of the book, technically. But there's an introduction that is 1 page earlier than that. And this is what really sums up the book, because it says, let's see, this is a story about a mother, 2 daughters, and 2 dogs. It's also about Mozart and Mendelssohn, the piano and the violin, and how we made it to Carnegie Hall. This was supposed to be a story about how Chinese parents are better at raising kids than Western ones, but instead it's about a bitter clash of cultures, a fleeting taste of glory, and how I was humbled by a 13-year-old. And so she has 2 daughters, Sophia and Lulu. And Sophia is the older daughter, and she's like the quintessential, like, perfect daughter. She does everything her mother says. She's the one that plays the piano, and she does everything her mother says. She excels at the piano. Both daughters end up playing at Carnegie Hall, I believe. Wait, does the second daughter play at Carnegie Hall? Actually, I don't think the second daughter does. I think just the first daughter plays at Carnegie Hall. And the second daughter is, like, not quintessential American child, but she's very rebellious. She loves the violin and she wants to excel at it, and, you know, she has the great grades and everything, but she just can't stand, well, neither of them can stand that the mother is always yelling at them, always driving them, always insulting them. And the whole book, was written by the mom. It's more written by the mom. And she to me, she seems very, very, very extreme. And I would never, ever raise my children this way. But it was really interesting to read about and to see the struggles that she went through behind the scenes. Because everybody always just saw, like, how great these daughters were and how talented they were. But they never saw all of the work and the fighting and the, just, like, all the horrible stuff that went on in the background to make these girls the incredible, like, talented girls that they were. And even by the end, by the time the second daughter is 13, the mom finally just gives in and lets the daughter quit violin and lets the daughter choose her own path. And the daughter turns out she's actually really good at tennis, which the mom never, like, she taught her tennis lessons, but they never focused on tennis because it wasn't, like, this great thing. And the daughter, like, has an incredibly, like, strong work ethic on her own, and so is becoming a great tennis player. And the mom starts to get, like, all super gung-ho with the tennis, like she was with the violin, and the daughter's just like, stop, Mom, just stop, just go away. And so, like, it was hard to read because listening to, like, the things that she said to these girls and how much she berated them all the time, and, like, she thought she was just complimenting them. And as she put it, it wasn't that she didn't think they were good enough and would praise them when they did something great. It was that she expected greatness from them, and if they didn't produce greatness, then she would criticize them. And so, it was a fast read because it's thin. It was a slightly difficult read for me because I couldn't stand hearing how the mom would berate them. And at the same time, like, it was a good read because I felt like I learned a lot from it, especially what not to do with my family. And so, like, I really, like, I would recommend reading it just because I think we can learn from it. But at the same time, I don't think it's a book that everybody would necessarily have to read. I don't think it's, like, something that you have to have in your repertoire. I do think it would be good, like, if somebody is considering being that strict parent and they don't necessarily have the willpower to go all the way through with it, that they should read this first, because it's definitely one of those all or nothing type raising. So I've come clear. Like, I liked the book, but I really didn't like her raising style, if that makes sense. But yeah, so that was the second book that I read for it. There was a third book that was supposed to be for the Asian Readathon, and that is 1,000 Beginnings and Endings. I did not end up reading that book. They don't sell it at any of the bookstores here in Albuquerque, and I cannot find my library card, so I haven't even checked to see if it's at the library. As it is, there's only a couple days left in the month, and I know that I would, even if I somehow managed to get my hands on it, there's no way that I'd be able to finish it in time, and so I just won't be reading that book for the Asian Readathon. Next year, hopefully, I'll be able to be more involved in the Asian Readathon and learn not to do multiple readathons at a time, but we will see how that goes. Anyway, that was my wrap-up for the Asian Readathon, and I look forward to seeing you guys in a couple more days. Bye!